Okay, I've started recording. Welcome, everybody. It's me, Joshua Jones, once again here with Eric Anderson from SIMSA, and we're going to talk more about your virtual events and trade show coming up. And since that's the topic, I don't have a ton of slides for you today. What a gift. So it's not a slide heavy day. I've got some slides that we can refer to and discuss, but there are some key points that we want to go over with regard to topics for your virtual trade show. And they include your content marketing and deliverables, which we talked a little bit about last time. The page that you have access to creating, including a logo and some content and resources for the event. The fact that, everybody else is there as well, just like you would have on a virtual trade show or on a trade show floor. In the virtual trade show, you will have the opportunity to prompt people to visit other vendors and visit other individuals that are participating so that those resources can kind of be shared just like they would in person. And we'll talk a little bit more about content generation. We talked last time about evergreen content, making sure that your content stands the test of time. So we'll talk about more of that and how to trigger the generation of that content, what to pick and choose to use later. And then a little bit more about what you can do in online meetings to really set that intention, to make that personal connection with folks. I wrote down the note: you're not buying people steaks here. You're not feeding them to get them into the meeting. So you might have a little bit less traffic than you might normally, when you're enticing people with lunch and so forth. So what other things can you do to get people through the door and enhance the quality of those communications? So less traffic potentially, but maybe higher value connections in that. So those are the goals as far as discussion points today, and I'm going to rely on all of you to ask questions. It's a challenge. So Eric, I think there were a few questions last time kind of about how this virtual trade show is going to work. Do you think we can start there maybe to give people a little bit more insight?
Yeah, we can do that. Do you want me to handle that part, or you want to handle that part?
I'm not as familiar as you are, if you don't
So,
mind giving it a start at least.
so I mean, with the virtual trade show, I mean, people are, they register, they're given a link, they come to a web page. It's a landing page for the site, the event. There's the option to attend presentations and seminars and such like, or go to the show itself, what we would consider the trade show portion. So if they click on the trade show portion, they come to another page, and there the sponsors' logos are up top, and their links to their trade show booths are there, followed by the rest of the attendee, the rest of the, I guess, displayers as they were, which is kind of neat. And so basically, there's just a link, and so you don't have the ability as to put up the big twirly yellow red spinny thing that makes people go, ooh, what's that, right? It's a logo. So the work has to be done in advance to make sure people are aware of your booth and who you are. It's a little different in that regard. Now, you can create, like you'll get into it, there's creating incentives and such like, but at the end of the day, you've got to do some preliminary work. The one thing that is there is the ability to sort and search vendors as well as persons working in the booths by certain categories. There's going to be about, let's say, 20 categories at most of capabilities. So people can search and say, I'm looking for a welder, or I'm looking for a fabricator, or I'm looking for a nest or an engineer. They can search by that and get a list. But other than that, it's and then also by person's abilities. There is the ability to have kind of a sort of LinkedIn profile of sorts, for each person in your booth, as it were. So they can search, I'm looking for a person with experience in carbon reduction or something like that. But other than that, that's about it. And then they go in, and then within the booth, there's video links, photo links, little videos themselves, links to the people, the ability to create chats through Teams, meetings through Teams, all those kind of pieces that would, any almost any virtual type of communication you can think of is within each booth, if that helps.
So it sounds like, obviously it's really critical that people come in and properly set up their profile in this platform. So
Yes.
they're going to need a clean logo, emphasizing clean logo, very distinguishable, make sure your colors are there. This logo may not be huge. So if you have, a nice concise logo. Now when you're opening or when you're adding those images, make sure that it fits the dimensions that the application is requiring. If it's asking for 400 by 400 and you try to put something too large, it's probably going to reject it. But if it doesn't, it's going to just squash it down for you, and it may make it pixelated or kind of grainy. So try to make sure the logo, the image that you upload, as closely matches the dimensions required by the platform as possible. And then beyond that, it sounds like, your organization has some type of bio or, brief description. It sounds like you're going to need to qualify your organization, what industry or, sector you're in, what expertise you bring to the table. So whoever is assigned to, you know, developing this profile really needs to be a detail-oriented person. And you've only got, like Eric was saying, you've only got so much that's going to attract people to your page. So give it some consideration, make it pithy, if you've ever heard that term. It just, put that marketing spin on it as much as you can without, sounding too schmaltzy, if you will, I think is a good suggestion there. Eric?
Yeah, yeah, we've had, if I can compare companies in other virtual trade shows that I've spoken with, the ones that use the virtual trade show booth as an excuse for a meeting did great. They did some legwork in advance. They used it as a random reason to have that meeting. You've always wanted that 10-minute conversation. And people went, oh, okay, sure, I'll have the conversation. It seemed to be like people were eager to do this. The person who just created the virtual trade show booth and just sat there at their laptop and waited for somebody to walk in were not nearly as successful. I mean, very unsuccessful, frankly. So there's some legwork that needs to be done in advance. You don't have to do all the time of hauling your goods and gear in and spending all that money on that. But you do need to spend money and time on some preliminary calls and outreach, and maybe creating some video or photo content. Think of it as a hyper-focused website, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great suggestion. Maybe you have a quick teaser video. Here's what we're doing today, or this is what we're working on. Come learn more. And think of those real life trade shows when you're walking around, you're walking down the aisles. There are some groups that have people out in the aisles greeting you, starting up conversations. That's what you need to do in advance. So you're sending emails, you're making quick calls. Hey, we're involved in this. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing for it. Here's a little extra that you can get. And you know who else is going to be there? So and so. I've been meaning to introduce you to, network it like you normally would at a trade show, but you can't stand out in the aisle. So you got to do that. And likewise, or on the opposite end, I should say, if you're walking through the trade show and you just see those people, sitting in their booth, not really engaging, not getting out in the aisle and greeting people, they're not going to have a lot of traffic. So it really carries over. You really got to put the effort into it. That's a huge point. Will the attendees and their company names be listed prior to the show? So Eric already answered that. Sorry, that's in the chat. Got to read the whole thing. So yeah, you will be listed prior to the show. So the site will be accessible, Eric, prior to the show with the full agenda, as it were, right?
People can start building their booths be about the second week of November, a month in advance, frankly. We'll send a link, and it's very intuitive. I mean, it walks you through, insert logo here, use this aspect ratio, this size. So you put it in. At the top of your booth, basically when you go to it, it's like a little mini web page. It says, what video or photo do you want here? And you put in a YouTube link for a video or something like that. Little description of what you do. You can upload documents, other little video links, and the description of yourself, and maybe you've got special giveaways and how to contact and profiles of your people in your booth, as it were. It's very intuitive. So we're going to send that out the first week of November, the link, and then maybe in the second week of November or so, we'll have another session on help people out with setting it up. But we really want to let people try it and work it by themselves for a week, because I think once they figure it out, it's not going to be this overwhelming thing. I'm thinking if you've done anything on the web before, filling in a PDF, that's what this is.
Yeah. And, I'd emphasize just from a learning perspective, it's where I spend a lot of my time is, thinking about how people learn and adopt new technologies. So when you get that link that first week in November, take the time, go through, at least look at it. Have some idea of what's going on in there, fill some of it out. And then that week later, you're going to be so much more informed when you can get together with Eric again and really, get your questions answered. So don't just wait till that meeting and procrastinate on it. Look at it as soon as you can and start filling in that information. And if you get it stuck or if you need any advice, then a week later, you've got that meeting coming up. Um, uh, Not sure, is that Randy? Sorry, you guys can rename yourselves. If you look at the top of the Zoom participant list, you'll see your name. So if your name doesn't appear just right, just float over and you can rename yourself so that I can tell your name a little bit better. But I think that's Randy. Or, maybe that's our Handebert. So, hopefully you'll see an example of a booth can be shared. And again, that sounds like the second week of November, there will be some workshopping going on. One thing that came to mind, you mentioned the YouTube video or, other video content, documents and assets that can be shared. So, think about those key items that you want to put in there. You already need to develop the content. So maybe we have a couple PDFs. What would you have at your booth? You'd probably have a brochure. You'd have business cards for people. So you can make little digital business cards where people can just click to save your contact information. Maybe you just put them in a PDF, put a bunch of people's contacts. So some type of contact tool so that people can reach out to you after the event. What other key items would you suggest go in there? A brochure, contact cards, video content for the top of the page. Eric, anything else top of mind for you?
The big thing I think is the video piece. We've posted on our virtual tools website the best practices for making shop tour videos now. It's a 10 or 11, 15-page document on what it should look like.
Hmm.
Going up in the next day or two will be um, budget brackets for various qualities and types of online shop videos. Everywhere from a simple 5-minute walk around with one camera and a guy talking up to a complete interactive virtual reality business tour. It may seem like a lot of money in the $30,000 neighborhood, but when you think about the amount of money that was spent going to a trade show in Las Vegas, plus the flights and costs, it's a fraction of it actually, and it's something that can be repurposed over and over again. And these trade shows stay online for a year; they don't just disappear like the Ag in Motion one. I'll grab the link for it right away. You can go there and still go to the Ag in Motion trade show. You need to sign in and go in and give an email address to get in, but the trade show's still there. I mean, it's still basically running. It's all available.
Hmm. Right. So that evergreen content, folks, this is, you want to be presenting and putting up information that's going to last at least that whole year. So, some of the enticements that you may put up there, uh, you know, you may want to include a timeline, must be accepted by certain, if you have something that's a deal or maybe a bonus or something like that for participants. So consider that the content will be there for a year, keep it as relevant as possible. Going back to the tours idea, iPhone 8 and greater and Samsung, I think Galaxy 10 and greater, newer phones within the last couple years have amazing cameras on them. So you can piece together, a decent video just using mobile devices and a little video editing. But as Eric mentioned, putting that budget, reallocating that budget, that airline budget, that hotel budget, that amenities. Just if I'm sending 10 people to Vegas for a week, just on their daily expenses alone, I could probably get a video shoot at least prepped and planned, if not completed.
Yeah.
And that's just on dinners and lunch. So yeah, reallocate those funds. I'm sure your finance department is thrilled that you're not having these huge expenditures. Um, but keep making the effort, I think, is the point there.
I put the link to the Ag in Motion show in the chat there.
Ag in Motion, yeah, same platform. It is called, I'm blanking on the name,
Swap card. Yeah,
Swap
they're
Card.
based out of Montreal.
Yeah, it seems like a cool application. I hadn't checked it out before, but there's a lot of them out there now, similar platforms to Swap Card. So be prepared. You may be doing this again
Yeah.
on another platform very soon. But figure out the ones that work for you. There's definitely a proliferation of these type of platforms these days. So we talked about the logo and the content, making some resources available on that page, whether they're downloadable or links. I'm sure you can link to other pages, but be careful about links to other pages. Just in general, if you've ever talked to a web designer, the whole idea, think of, what juggernaut, like Facebook. Facebook does everything it can to keep you within the Facebook platform. That's why they developed Messenger. It's their own messaging app. It's built within their platform. So consider that when you're putting up, if you're thinking of putting a URL to another page, well, technically you're driving someone somewhere else. So maybe that's not the best idea. You want to keep them there as much as you can. Maybe not as extreme as Facebook does. So logo, content, resources, develop that page, get it started early so that you know what you need to do and come back with questions the week following once it comes out to you in November. I made some comments about all hands on deck. I think we've kind of mentioned that, like at a in-person trade show, everybody's there on the Swap Card platform. So if there are folks that sometimes you partner with or work with or refer people to, the possibility is still there. So figure out who those people are. Have yourself a short list. Make sure that folks can find them easily. Eric, would you add some color to the networking side of things a little bit?
Yes. The mining association employees, so those are the purchasing and mill managers and all those people involved on the mining company side, are being encouraged to attend the show. So they're going to be there looking around, and they're being asked by their employees to do it because the mining association is our partner. I mean, if I'm going to call out one of our members, it would be, so PAMI, at their website at our trade show or in-person trade show, if you ever walk by the PAMI booth, they actually bought two booths. One was a tent with a couch and chairs and a coffee table, and the other was just kind of a display. And they had scheduled meetings all day long in their booth. Their booth actually became a little mini office where they had scheduled meetings, and they used the trade show as an excuse to have a bunch of little 10-minute meetings. It was a neat concept. And then the virtual platform, that's basically what you do. You have the ability to schedule from within it little Teams meetings, and they use the Teams platform, and they're simply because it's accessible. We chose that one, the Swap Card platform, because they use Teams, because Teams is accessible through the firewalls of major corporations far more than others. So it's there. Use it as an excuse to schedule meetings.
Okay, I'm just waiting for questions to come through. I find if you give people an uncomfortable pause, they'll just have to say something. So type into the chat, folks. Feel free to unmute yourself at the bottom left. Turn on your webcam. Get up here with us if you'd like. So all hands on deck. You know the folks that are out there. You know who you can refer them to. I'd say, Eric, do they have an opportunity to see one another's booth setup as well? So
Yeah. I mean,
they'll
once
have a
they,
chance to tour through Swap Card and see who else is there, right?
yeah, they can have once you've got your booth set up online, it's online,
Hmm.
and people can go around and see what's going on. I'd encourage you to go to the Ag in Motion link there, go to that page, sign in, get into the trade show itself, and look at some of the bigger, like Bayer Crop Science and Monsanto. See their booth, and then look at some of the smaller ones, and you're going to notice they're strikingly similar. I mean, this really levels a platform. It's an opportunity for smaller companies to be just as big as some of the big ones. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a neat thing. And once again, think of the hyper-focused website, the ability to drive people to one thing. You mentioned in our last session, online giveaways, some kind of a thing, your swag bag, and maybe you have swag items from your booth that you actually end up mailing in the end, rather than, because you can't give them in person. You can mail it, right? Or FedEx or courier,
Hmm.
or send them a skip the dishes lunch. I don't know. It's up to you. Different
I have
things.
a question.
That stuff works. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so my name is Jim Rode. I'm from Davis Machine. I appreciate the the virtual shop tour kind of thing and the $30,000 budget. Not sure the analogy of comparing it to going to Vegas and a SIMSA trade show is in line. However, there's no doubt that we need to do some work on this. I'm just wondering if there's Eric, if you've done some other work to perhaps find local vendors in Saskatoon or Saskatchewan that could help with that, perhaps a budget that's more affordable for a SIMSA type trade show.
The video piece.
Yeah, with creating a video.
Yeah, we're going to be posting. I just got the document in this morning with the various budgets. They're running anywhere from $7,500 for a smaller commentary kind of video. The 30,000 was was an interactive virtual reality video with headsets. Right?
That's like an immersive.
Oh yeah, it's like
set on, and you're walking through the shop. Okay, yeah, that sounds
like
about right.
It's a full-on video game, that one.
Yeah, that's a pie in the sky project right there.
but yeah, we will have a list of videographers. We have two members within our association, Levis Media and Creative Fire, that both already create these kind of tours of these video pieces. But I'll have a link on our site up in the next few minutes, well, this afternoon anyway, with budget examples and the links into the Saskatchewan Videographer Association. There are a bunch of videographers in the province that do this kind of work.
Yeah, that's great. A few questions came in. I knew we could encourage some. Claire had asked, so you can run mini meetings while running your virtual booth. So Claire, that's essentially right. So people will come into your virtual booth, your page, your logo, your description, deliverables are there. And then they have the option, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, to either schedule or join into a live meeting from there, right?
Yes, and the meeting in your booth is basically the booth. I mean, that's why you're there, right? That's the intention.
So you have a meeting open, while you're on the platform, you're there and people can just join right into that meeting via Teams.
They can join in via Teams. They can schedule one. You can have several of your employees lined up. They can pick who they want to talk to. And there's various options. I mean, it's...
so they can have multiple Teams meetings available on the page. So if they want to talk to the CEO versus the CFO or something similar.
Yeah, everybody's got their contact there.
Mm-hmm. Great. Claire, let me know if that doesn't clear that up completely for you.
Josh, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Hey, Tabitha.
I have to go right away. So I wanted to ask sort of what is the unwritten rule for giving swag? Like I want to do a webinar and I want to entice people to come to my webinar, for instance. What's politically correct? Can I give them a $5 coffee card? Like, is that imposing? Is that what we should be doing? Just some thoughts on that would be great.
Yeah, Eric, I know your industry does have, or maybe it's more of a regulatory thing. There are some limits on what you can give folks and how much you can spend, right?
Yeah, I believe I think off the top of my head, it's like $25. It's a small amount, like $25 or something, that you can give to a person in a major corporation without it becoming, I don't know, payola, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So, the smaller is better, but it's up to you. I mean, what you want to do. I've seen everything from crib boards being given away for playing cards to, GPS locators that you stick on your children at some booths, which I think my sneaking suspicion were above the limit, but needless to say, they were still there. Anyway, I don't think there's anything wrong with the small. I mean, I wouldn't mind if somebody gave me a coffee. I mean, send me a $5 Tim's card. Why not? I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
And I don't know what's available in your area. In our area, we have things like Grubhub or Uber Eats, but there's a lot of food delivery services that are popping up all over the place in the what do they call it? The gig economy, as it were. Um, Brooke was asking, while the booth is under development, is there a switch to make it live, or how does
yes.
that work?
Yeah, I believe, I don't quote me on this as gospel, but I believe, yes, you have the ability to finish building and then make it go live.
So you're in edit mode and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
publish the
yeah.
page. I would assume that's how it works, yeah. Will the trade show be run at concurrent time with other industry presentations? So Tabitha was just saying she wants to run a webinar, maybe in conjunction with this event. So that makes me think, well, maybe you do need to know what other key activities might be going on.
Yeah.
So, ask around with folks, and maybe even collaborate with other organizations to kind of pull your resources and make a bigger event. But Eric, concurrent events, should they be watching out for, timing and so forth?
Yeah, if you go to the Mining Supply Chain Forum website right now, under program, if you click on program, you get there. Let me just post that link. There's the link. You'll see there's a present, there's a keynote. This is all draft at this moment, but at the keynote is at 9. The trade show opens at 10. And then there's some concurrent sessions as well. So there will be a point there in the day where the booths are open as well as the sessions are open. So yeah, there is some overlap there.
So is the suggestion then just to be kind of conscious of what other folks are doing,
Yeah.
or, just go all in and promote the junk out of what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say so.
A little both.
I mean, people need to be, there's one thing that the virtual platform allows for. I mean, yeah, we don't meet in person. You don't get the random, face-to-face meetings in the aisle or spot the guy from across the room you've always wanted to talk to and run over and, corner them. But there are abilities to build your own, make it what you want and be aggressive as you want. I mean, you can do things in this platform that you can't do with others. And as you said before, it's evergreen. Things stay there. You can repurpose the same video or PDFs that you would create for this event for other virtual trade shows. I can almost guarantee this will not be your only virtual trade show the next year. There's PDAX going, these other major shows are also going virtual. So the stuff you develop from one, you can use in the other.
Yeah, so let's say they do put up a special offer for while they're live there, during a certain portion. I assume once they put up something, they can still come back after the trade show, since it's there for a year. They can still edit that profile page and change that content. So
yeah, take that down.
if there's something you only wanted available for a certain span of time around the launch of the show or something, then of course you could pull that off if needed. So I think that's good coverage on kind of the all hands on deck conversation. Some other chats did come in, just checking our time. We're doing okay. Do you have any recommendations on services that deliver gift swag? There are a lot of them out there, and none of the names have really stuck in my head yet. I haven't used any personally, but there are some even tailoring their gift delivery items to your event, so specifically designed for online meetings and so forth. Because think about it, people are doing this for board meetings these days. People are doing online board meetings, and there's usually quite a spread, an executive board meeting and so forth. So yeah, there are a lot of organizations. Hard to say what's available in your specific area and where you're delivering to. So keep that in mind as you pick services that might be delivering out a little goodie bag or package.
The headset you have on there, I think it's one of the ones you recommended last week. I went online. I think in Canada is $40 in Canadian dollars.
Right.
It's a little over the limit, but there's a gift that a lot of people might be needing right about now in their life, including myself.
I'm just going to put the brand in, the make and model. It's the Sennheiser SC70. So it only goes over one ear, which I like because I have to wear this all day. So flip it around. I never wear it on this side. This feels so different. But I can flip it around. So I like that it has just the one ear coverage. Makes my sound good. We didn't really talk about this too much, but let me switch over to my webcam microphone real quick. So did you notice the difference all of a sudden? If there's background noise, I'm just using my built-in microphone if I'm typing really loud. So yeah, $40 headset. Maybe that's pushing it a little bit, but it's definitely something you should look into for your team that's hosting your meetings, so forth. Okay. Do we have the ability through swap card to schedule, promote, and put on a webinar during the event?
That I'm not sure of. If you can actually schedule your own webinar through the platform. I mean, you can always put a link to your webinar on the platform. That's for sure. I mean, you could tell people in advance that, hey, on December 3rd at 1 p.m., I'm going to do my own little webinar and put the link on the virtual trade show booth. I mean, that's easy enough to do. Can you schedule it through the platform? I don't think so, because that would be somewhat, frankly, overriding the trade show itself. And I don't think they would intuitively allow you to do something like that.
Mm-hmm, right, because then again, you're driving people away from that platform, and probably not what they want you to do. Yeah. Maybe something that coincides, or maybe it's the next day, or shortly thereafter. Keeping in mind, if it's an enticement to get people there, I think that's a good thing to do, and feed them into the trade show and tell them what they can do, so that you're kind of encouraging them to get involved in the amoeba of this virtual trade show and add to it. I think that could be a good approach, but I'd probably recommend keeping it brief, because if you want people there, you don't want them, your in-person presentation at a trade show, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, not even full half hours usually. They're usually just brief bits, because people are coming and going, they're traveling by, so you want to catch them as briefly as you can. So something to consider. You might want to make it a shorter, more bite-sized session. 30 minutes sounds reasonable.
One of the things you touched on there was also the cross-promoting other booths and such, which brings up the whole idea of promotion and social media. I mean, the one thing you can do for yourself and everybody involved, I mean, it's not just all hands on deck within your company, but within the sector. If you promote the event itself on your social media feeds, not only you're driving traffic to your site, but you're driving traffic to everybody else's site. Hopefully the others are doing the same thing, and therefore they're all driving traffic to each other's sites. And and you can start to feed off each other, and then the reach is massive if everybody would do that.
Right, one hand washes the other. I shared this slide a couple days, or last week, when we talked a little bit more in detail. I went through each of these, but I just wanted to bring it up for you again. If you haven't seen it before, if you want to take a quick screenshot of some key thoughts, you're welcome to. It'll be in the recording there as well. But just wanted to remind you folks of some of the things that I think of initially in these type of conversations, focusing on those advantages, realizing that it is a level playing field. you as a smaller organization can compete with a large organization, and you as a larger organization don't take it for granted because those smaller organizations can compete with you. You know, you don't have your giant wind tunnel set up in the middle of the trade show anymore. Um, Here's another question from Graham. Thank you. Will SIMSA have a marketing package available to attendees, stuff like social posts and so forth, things to integrate? Um, Eric, what about that? Any samples, social posts, or guidance that SIMSA is going to provide in that regard?
We've
Chance
got
to share and collaborate?
we've got a LinkedIn, a Facebook, and a Twitter logo. A graphic that's scaled for each platform that we're using now. I could make those. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll make those available under the virtual tour tools website page where we have the archive of this plus the shop tour video information. I'll put those graphics up there as well. People can just go in there and grab them and use those and you know as a baseline and insert their own links and such and get them out that way.
Okay, so you have some like banners and stuff that
Yeah.
they can put up on social, maybe throw some text on top of it if they wanted to brand
Yeah.
it for themselves.
But
Okay.
they're self-contained with the image and the logo and the date and you know and it's your basic graphic that will at least get people's attention. It's better, it's far better than just plain text, let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, use that image heavy content. In that, think of what grabs your attention when you're, I don't know, scrolling through social media or looking at a website. What grabs your attention? Usually it's a striking image. You know, so really use images, get good quality, make them relevant images. I think I kind of mentioned that in this other slide. Something, you know, creating content that's visually appealing. Images help people to make that connection. Kind of like smells and sounds, you know, images are attached to our memories. So when you think of something, sometimes there's an image, or when you smell something, sometimes it makes you think of an image or a place that you've been, you know? So it's important. It's psychology. Use it to your advantage. We did talk about some best practices. You know, I switched over to my microphone in my webcam just to show you the difference between using, you know, a proximity microphone that keeps down background noise versus just an open room microphone, especially if I'm in a loud space and, you know, maybe the shop floor is a couple doors over.
Yeah, one of the we can't emphasize enough the importance of when people first go to your booth, they you know, they click on your logo and the first thing they see will pop up as a little description, but above it is either a photo or a video. And I would highly recommend that a video is far better at the top, far better than a static photo. Unless, you know, of course, you hired Ansel Adams, somehow you resurrected him to grab a photo for you that's beyond belief. But
Ansel Adams, okay.
short of that, I'm assuming a video would be better.
That guy did a lot of work to get those images. Just think about it. Hundreds of pounds of equipment. Him and his buddy that traveled with him. I've heard this story. Wild. Didn't think to talk about Ansel Adams today. Graham appreciates the response there. And also just encouraging you folks to kind of share with some consistency, get on message with the group so that people, oh, they're there. Oh, hey, I saw that from them. They're here too. That's, you know, it'll create more of a buzz if there's some consistency in that messaging. So that's a really good suggestion from Graham. Will we have the ability to revise our booth content before and or after? So Todd asking about revisions. I assume, Eric, they can craft the booth anytime, right?
Yes, it's online, so that's the, I mean, frankly, that's somewhat the beauty of the thing too, though, is that it's the evergreen content, it's there, and you can change it though. I mean, that's, yeah, you don't want to have an offer of up there or maybe an employee listed who's no longer there. May not be the best thing. I should circle back on the one thing on the video. I said we're going to be posting those video costs, for sample video costs. I'll be up this afternoon. They're for Saskatchewan suppliers. You know, the cost of a local supplier to do this We're not bringing in Lucas Films or something like that to create your shop tour. Once again, George Lucas and Ansel Adams are both off the screen today. We're talking about, finding somebody. I'll also have a list of Saskatchewan videographers from their association available links. So you can go in there and find people that can create these things for you locally. Because when you think about it, we're on a pretty tight timeline here. The event is in 7 weeks, and you've got 7 weeks to locate, hire, script, film, edit, and post something if you wanted to get started on that today. So you better get a move on.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, if you don't have somebody come out to do the video for you, like I said, with small capture devices,
Yeah.
grab a bunch of footage around the shop, around your offices.
Mhm.
And I'd even say, I work a lot with consulting firms and uh, PR firms and so forth. And they're really big on introducing to people, what would it be like if you could walk into our office right now? Offices are starting to open up, businesses are opening up. I'm sure your shops are open for business, but, may not be getting the foot traffic that you normally would. So maybe give people an idea of what it's like. What's your culture like? What's your, group like? Don't just focus maybe on the technical side of things, especially these days when we're all feeling a little bit more separated. Consider putting a little bit more of that personal touch on it as well. So grab a lot of footage, what people would call B-roll. So set up a camera in a corner and just let business take place for a little while. And then you take that footage that you've captured and you hand that to a video editor, and they'll just be pleased as punch to be able to, okay, I can just grab this and overlay it while so-and-so is talking about whatever. It doesn't have to be a movie.
Yeah.
Usually it's more of a montage, somebody talking over some B-roll, some background footage that can be kind of interlaced together.
I,
So yeah,
I just
you
I
don't have
just
to be LucasArts to do this stuff, like you said, Eric.
so I just posted the link to the to our virtual tours tools piece of our website. If you click on that link, you'll go there. First of all, you're going to see the archive and the description of our first event with Joshua here. The second event and link and video archive will be there as well. But right now, at the top is the best practices for shop tour videos. You click on that and go into it. It's a long item telling you everything. It's got everything from describing the kind of camera to use. It was a document created so people could create their tour videos themselves, frankly. As well as we will be posting up, like I said, later on today, if you're hiring somebody else, which would be some budget concepts and things like that. But it's there to help people do it themselves, recognizing timelines and budgets could be problematic. So it's all there.
Yeah, and there are a lot of services out there. Be careful of who you're working with. Of course, you want to vet them as you would any other vendor, see some proof of their work. But there are services out there like Fiverr and so forth where you can identify people to do this type of, technical work. But I'd certainly recommend finding a local vendor that can be responsive and quick in this case, because 7 weeks is a pretty short timeline for a project like that. Um, but working with a local group is always, advisable because they're going to know you a little bit more or
Yeah.
be a little bit more in touch with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just go back to my notes and make sure we're hitting all of our key points from the list here. So we talked about how that virtual online networking, not exactly the same as that in person. You're not stepping out into the aisle and shaking hands, so to speak. You're not buying people's steaks. Things really need to be intentional. So we talked about, having that video content and other content to grab people's attention. We talked about some goodie bags or items that you can think of, enticements and so forth. Modest enticements, of course, like you would always. And really making that intentional reach out. So going back to something that Eric said earlier, a few emails in advance, some phone calls, some, grabbing people by the hand and dragging them along a little bit to the show, maybe, you know, absolutely required in some cases. And as Eric said, the people that go out and do more of that are going to see more activity. So,
Yeah.
you want to help to contribute to that, because the more people you can drum up and get into the platform, the more successful the whole group potentially is going to be. So it's one of those rising tides lifts all boats sort of thing. Hopefully there's not too much competition in the way of that. Eric, I don't know if you'd add any comments to that, but you're looking at less traffic and we're looking at higher value connections is really the point there.
Yeah, I'll like I said, I'll get the various. There's 3 graphics that were created for different aspect ratios of different social media platforms. We'll get those up on that site this afternoon as well, for people to grab and start sharing them. I mean, it's fine to share them now to drive people to the Mining Supply Chain Forum website, but I think they're which is great. Thank you. Bless your hearts for doing that. But it would be even more so important once the show itself is open, then link it to that. So people can go there and start seeing things and becoming aware of it. They're going to need to register to get into the show, obviously, as before, but this will also help you in your one-on-one marketing with your potential clients.
And if you don't have a huge marketing, oh, Graham, show registration is open right now, Eric.
You can if you go to the website. Hang on here. Let me pull that up. What's open right now is the ability to buy tickets and register for the event, but not the and for attendees.
Mm-hmm.
There's the link there. The link for that's the regular Mining Supply Chain Forum website. Yes, attendees can register now, but they still can't go in and see the show. The show itself will not be up and running, beginning to be populated until the second week of November or first week of November. Think of it this way: people are going to be able to. It's a little different trade show. People can walk into the trade show before it's completely set up in a virtual world. Your booth will be completed, but not everybody's booth will be completed until the day of the event itself. It's better if more people are set up in advance. I have a sneaking suspicion people will, simply out of fear, out of like, how hard is this going to be? I better get on top of this thing. But I think people will be delightfully surprised. It's not that difficult. Think of it as a fillable PDF. But think of the products or services you really want to focus on. Because a hyper-focused website of people drilling people into something specific. You do not want to try to be casting a really large blanket on this one.
Mm-hmm. I put in a link to the chat if you're looking to spiff up some images or put some text over it and make it look fancy. Canva is a pretty good tool free to use. As far as I know, I haven't used it for a while. But yeah, if you don't have an in-house, marketing pro that's going to spin up these materials and help out, there are some tools out there that can help you make things look slick without having to break the bank. CMI is asking, what's being done to draw on attendees? Can you give us any ideas on expectations on attendees so far?
So the attendees from the mining companies themselves, if you look at the program page I sent out earlier, confirmed speaking so far, we have Cameco, Denison, K+S, Mosaic, NextGen, Nutrien, Orano, and SAS Power. Basically the confirmed speakers right now are all the usual suspects that you would hope to see. They're all there. And their staff will be attending and walking, virtually walking around. That has been confirmed. As far as outside persons from outside of those groups, yes, we've begun sending out the emails as before. We've relaunched the registration. We're also working with Global Affairs Canada. Think about it this way, the virtual trade show has the ability to reach not just the Saskatchewan people now or Canada, it can reach into South America and places in Germany. We're working with the German Chamber of Commerce as an example. It has the ability to reach further than ever before. It has the ability to to get into places, a person, maybe they couldn't afford to travel, or they were only interested. They didn't travel from Chile, Peru, or Brazil. They have an interest, but, man, that's a lot of money. Normally they wouldn't have flown up here, even without COVID. But now they do have the option, right? I mean, to come and visit the site, look around, and then maybe once things settle down, and maybe a year from now, whatever that is, they'll have the ability to attend in person, or at least now become somewhat aware of people to phone and call.
Yeah, and that's been, you know, that's been the talk. That's what I figured would convince everybody to stop traveling and do virtual online meetings. Just the cost of traveling alone and doing business that way. It's just such a huge expenditure. And it's, not such a great use of people's time. People ask us to come on site to assist them, and I tell them, I can assist 3 events in a single day from my office. I can assist 1 event every 3 days if I'm out on the road traveling, potentially. So think about that. How can you maximize the return on that time and investment? Graham had chatted in just asking about, once people register, they can register now. Share that link. They will get email reminder to prompt them to come to the event, as Eric responded. Graham says, awesome sauce.
Is there any other questions out there? We've got Joshua on the phone, or I guess the web here, for another 10 minutes or so. You've got an opportunity to ask questions of a person who's to say they're familiar with virtual conferencing and virtual chat would be an understatement.
Well, thank you.
You were with Zoom for quite a few years before Zoom ever became a household word. So,
right, employee 227, I think, was the number when I started at Zoom. But before that, I was at GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. So I've been doing this stuff for almost 15 years now. So yeah, anything about your online meetings, your presence while you're there. I know we kind of covered that more in the first session with regard to creating your content and so forth. Happy to respond to any other questions, but.
There was one question I saw. How do you handle that, the duplicate request or the duplication of an online meeting? Is there any best practice around how do you kind of split people off or push them aside, or is there been any, how do you handle that kind of a request? You just say you're not available, or do you try to prioritize things? How does that work in your world?
So meaning that you've got overlapping requests, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, most platforms, and I think this includes Teams, will allow a user to host only 1 meeting at a time.
Yeah.
On the Zoom platform, which I'm using more readily lately, of course, Zoom has what's called a waiting room, and I wonder if Teams has a similar tool.
Yeah,
Does it? Okay, so if people are joined into the Teams meeting in a waiting room, well, then they can kind of queue up like in an office waiting room, and you can bring in the next person. So if you've got 1 person trying to staff the booth, that could be challenging. So maybe making sure that there are a couple of options. And within the booth space, Eric, is there a chat tool?
Yeah, there's a chat.
So within that, we didn't really talk about that, but you'll probably want somebody operating the chat. So as soon as somebody comes into your booth space, you should see that they're in the room, really, and you can chat to them and see if you can help and create a conversation. And then you'll need 1, 2, or potentially more people to have their meetings open. But if you just have 1 or 2, and having that waiting room tool just in case there's more than 1 request coming through at a time. And then, of course, as Eric mentioned, the ability to prompt people to schedule a meeting. Maybe you have certain hours that you're operating the booth, and you can post that clearly in your content. We'll be here for office hours or for open conversation or networking time from these hours to these hours. Outside of those hours, please schedule a meeting here. Eric, would you add to that?
Yeah, if you go to the website right now for the event, you'll notice that the current agenda shows the trade show opening at 10 and closing at 4:30 p.m. Basically it's open kind of right in the middle of the office hours for the day. We put a close time at 4:30 just so that people could end things and maybe attend to other emails and such like, or other conversations after the trade show closes, so that they're not being demanded to be online all day long
Hmm.
and into the evenings. It's not going to be that way. At least with this trade show booth, you won't get sore feet from standing all day and sore knees. You might get a sore eyes and you might get a little bad case of trucker's tush, but other than that, you should be fine.
Unless you get a standing desk. I invested in
Standing
one.
desk.
I like my standing desk. I'm a standing desk fanatic now. Plus I get to do this. Is that going the right way? But anyway, so with regard to the tools that you have in Teams available to you, that it is kind of a good segue to take a look at those settings for your Teams meetings. Is that waiting room type tool on? Are people coming in, on video or unmuted? Look at those settings that you're using, make sure that they're in line with best practices.
Yeah.
Is there screen sharing content that you're going to have available? As soon as they join into the meeting, do you want to make sure that slide's always up, or do you want them to see you face to face? How do you want that to work? Because that's the big part of the experience, right? Is
And
once they're in there meeting with you.
set up your booth early, get in there, see what's available, try it out, do some testing. I mean, when we started
Definitely do some testing.
we did the Microsoft Live events with Nutrien back in June, we probably did 6 test events prior to that to make sure that the video production was running smoothly and the switch over between the various speakers across Canada was working well. We made sure that we had a very stable bandwidth. We made sure we had backup. The presentations were on 2 or 3 different laptops in case one crashed. We had a backup. I have a backup internet connection as well, just to make sure if something goes down. There was a lot of redundancies put in place you never thought were needed. But make sure you test it a lot, try it out, work it, get familiar with it, get comfortable. You won't break anything. Nobody will get injured. That's the way to go.
Kathy is asking about staffing. Any recommendations? How many people from that 10 to 4:30 time?
That's the crapshoot that I really couldn't answer. I mean,
Depends on how much they want to work it, right? How many people they're reaching out to bring in.
Yeah, how much preliminary work have you done? If you've done none, one person might be able to be fine. If you've done a lot, you might need a few. I mean, but you've also got under your booth, at your booth, you will have the list of your employees that are also at the event, virtually. And there could be 6 different people. Maybe you've got a person for, I'm going to let's go to like a Caterpillar dealership or something like that. You got a guy, well, this guy deals with bulldozers. This guy deals with underground mining machines. This guy deals with maintenance. You've got different categories of person, and maybe they're all available for different topics, right? Because that's the way your business is built. Maybe you're a service company where you have one key contact and there's just that person. So I think that'll differ from business to business. I would err on the side of caution for the first time out and go with 2, and plan to have it be ready. You never know when things are going to happen on the fly. And have some background work ready. I mean, have something else to do so that you're being productive no matter what.
Or maybe have somebody that you can call in. Hey, this got busier than we thought it would. So, hey, tag, you're in. And have them prepped, have them prepped on what's going on. They don't want to be stepping in blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And it also made me think, at a trade show, wouldn't you maybe have somebody that their job is to walk the floor and just, maybe have some literature or something, conversation starters? So is it possible for vendors to access and view other people's booths and, network and communicate with them as well?
You can access other vendors, and many of the attendees will also have profiles, not all. Some will be kind of incognito wandering around and not publishing their profile, but there will be other people attending that you can look up and say, hey, I see you're at the event. Frankly, think of it as a great big LinkedIn site or something like that where you can find people.
So can they reach out to participants in Swap Card so they can send them a chat message or a direct message?
As long as they've enabled that on their end to be visible.
So that they're visible. Yep. Okay, so great suggestions there. As we come to just past the top of the hour.
Okay. Any other last questions? I mean, Joshua's been great and to have online and chat with, and sort of demystify some things and bring some stability and some best practice, and make sure that people understand that things aren't as difficult as it could be imagined. It's not as ominous as it is imagined.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, once you lift the curtain a little bit and see the inner workings of this world, it's not so different from what you're used to. It may seem complicated because maybe you're not a huge fan of computers, but
Yeah. Go watch.
it's really not that hard. You can get in. I've seen grandmas teaching aerobics quite literally on Zoom before, so you can do it.
So go watch The Wizard of Oz, and at the end, watch them lift the curtain and find out it's just some guy.
Yeah, and he's not even that big. Awesome.
Anyway,
Well, Eric, I really appreciate you inviting me to speak with this group. Folks really appreciate the questions and the engagement that we had, and I hope it was. I will wish you good luck, Linda. You won't need good luck. You're going to be so well prepared. Just get in there early and get it set up. Thank you so much for your time and the questions that you had today. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate it.
and thanks, Joshua, for help from coming up from sunny California to
All
chilly
the way.
Saskatchewan this morning.
Oh, gosh.
It was a quick flight for you this morning. So thank you very much. Great having you online. And like I said, people, all these things will be posted at the virtual tools news page of our news posting of our website in the very near future. So thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap things up today. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.